I'm Elena, a 68-year-old widow who poured every ounce of my soul into raising my children after their father died. So when they, my own flesh and blood, called me a burden and locked me in the cellar of our family home, it wasn't just cruel, it was a knife in my heart. They thought I was too old, too frail to fight back. They thought they could silence me. They were wrong. Their shame will linger long after I'm gone. Before I begin my story, I just want to show my gratitude by saying thank you for listening to me. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. I love hearing from you. And if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. It helps me more than you know and shows me do you appreciate what I do or not. Now, let me tell you what really happened. I've walked this earth for 68 years, 30 of them as a widow. My husband, Marco, was taken from us too soon, leaving me with our two children, Luca and Sofia. Luca was 10. Sofia just 6, their small hands gripping mine at his graveside in our quiet coastal town of San Vero, Italy. I swore then I'd move mountains to give them everything: a home, love, a future. And I did. I worked tirelessly as a school principal, balancing endless meetings, their school plays, and a home that always demanded more than I had to give. This house, Marco's dream, perched on a cliff overlooking the Tyrrhenian Sea, became our sanctuary. I filled it with warmth, discipline, and the scent of fresh-baked focaccia, hoping it would be enough. Luca, now 40, is a slick hotel manager in Naples, always in tailored suits, his ambition outpacing his loyalty. His wife of 15 years, Claudia, 39, perpetually unsatisfied, never hid her belief that my efforts were no longer enough. Sofia, my gentle-eyed 36-year-old, a freelance illustrator, seemed to float in their shadow, her soft voice drowned out by their louder demands. Lately, the air in my own home has grown heavy with their disrespect. Sunday dinners, a tradition I cherished, turned into a stage for their subtle cruelty. Really, Mama? These old plates again? Claudia would sigh, her eyes flicking dismissively over the ceramic dishes Marco and I picked out during our honeymoon in Sorrento. So rustic, she'd say, her tone dripping with disdain. Luca would chime in, avoiding my gaze, slicing the roast with impatient hands. We were just saying, Mama, when we modernize this place, we'll need something more elegant for proper entertaining. Modernize? I'd ask, my voice tighter than I meant. This house is too big for you now, Luca would say, his emphasis on you like a push. We're just being practical. It needs a full renovation to be worth anything, or for us to use it properly. Claudia would nod, her smile sharp. You deserve to rest, Elena. Not fuss over creaky floors or that wild garden. That garden, Marco's pride, bursting with lavender and lemon trees, was no embarrassment to me. It was a testament to a love Claudia couldn't understand. Sofia, bless her, would try to defend me. Mama's garden is beautiful, she'd murmur, but her words were quickly smothered by Claudia's sharp glance or Luca's dismissive wave. Sometimes, Sofia echoed them, her voice soft but cutting. Maybe a smaller place would be easier, Mama. Less to manage. Her words stung like salt in a wound. Not as brutal as Luca's or Claudia's, but they hurt all the same. Their gaslighting was relentless. Mama, you said last week you wanted us to clear out the cellar, Claudia would claim when I caught her rummaging through Marco's old fishing gear. I'd said no such thing. The cellar was my haven of memories. Your memory's slipping, isn't it, dear? She'd add, patting my hand with a condescension that made my skin crawl. Luca treated me like a child, or worse, an obstacle. If I shared a story, he'd scroll his phone, muttering, uh-huh, without listening. If I commented on local politics, he'd cut me off. Things are different now, Mama. You wouldn't get it. He started calling my home the property in talks with Claudia, right in front of me, as if I were already gone. Their greed was a living thing, a hungry shadow in the room. They weren't just eyeing the house. They were mentally gutting it, planning extensions, their voices hushed until I entered, then falling silent. I tried to hold my ground. This house is your father's legacy, Luca, I said one day, my voice trembling with hurt and anger. It's my home, and I can manage it perfectly well. Luca laughed, a cold, dismissive sound. Oh, Mama, don't get sentimental. We're just being realistic. This place isn't practical anymore, and let's face it, you're not exactly spry. We're thinking of our future. Claudia nodded, her eyes gleaming. Someone has to be the adult here, she said, as if I, Elena, who raised them alone, who ran a school and a household, wasn't one. Their rudeness wasn't just careless, it was deliberate, meant to wear me down. I saw the cold ambition in Luca's eyes, the avarice in Claudia's, and the quiet compliance in Sofia's. A chilling realization hit me. They weren't just thoughtless. They were plotting a future without me, one where I was conveniently out of the way. The love I'd given so freely felt like it had turned toxic in their veins. I, their mother, was becoming a stranger in my own life, a problem they were eager to solve. The air in my San Vero home grew heavier each day, thick with the weight of my children's betrayal. It was a Friday when Claudia swept into my kitchen, her perfume sharp and overpowering, her eyes scanning the room like she was already redecorating it in her mind. Luca trailed behind, his usual confidence replaced by a nervous energy that set my nerves on edge. Mama, Claudia said, her voice too bright, like a salesperson closing a deal. We've decided your beautiful home is perfect for a small pre-wedding reception Luca is hosting for some key clients tomorrow night. Just a few important people. You won't need to do a thing. I froze, my coffee cup halfway to my lips. A party? Here. In my home? Claudia, you didn't even ask, I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my chest. This house, with its sunlit rooms and Marco's old fishing nets hung as decor, was my sanctuary, not a venue for their ambitions. Luca, you always use that fancy club in Naples for these things. Luca waved a hand, dismissive as ever. Claudia thought a homier touch would impress them, Mama. More authentic. Don't worry, we'll handle it all. His tone implied I was a nuisance for even questioning them. Claudia chimed in, her smile sharp as a blade. Elena, please don't make this difficult. It's just a few hours. Think of it as helping Luca's career. Her eyes flicked around my kitchen, lingering on the worn wooden table Marco had carved, her disdain barely concealed. Besides, she added, it'll show us how the space could flow with a more refined setup. Their audacity stole my breath. They weren't asking. They were telling me, treating my objections like the ramblings of a senile old woman. The argument that followed was sharp and brutal. I tried to stand firm, my voice rising despite myself, but Luca's booming insistence and Claudia's cutting remarks drowned me out. You're being unreasonable, Mama, Luca said, his patience thin. You're stuck in the past. Claudia smirked, adding, we're just trying to make things easier for everyone. When I called Sofia later, hoping for an ally, she only sighed. Oh, Mama, just let them have their party. It's easier than fighting them. You know how they are. Easier for whom, Sofia? By Saturday morning, my home was unrecognizable. Caterers and florists swarmed in, transforming my cozy living room into something sterile and cold, like a showroom. Claudia directed them with the precision of a general, replacing my framed family photos with sleek, modern decor. I moved a small vase of Marco's favorite lavender from the coffee table, clutching it like a lifeline when my foot caught on the edge of a rug. It was a tiny stumble, corrected in an instant, but Claudia pounced. Elena, my goodness, she gasped, her voice dripping with false concern. Are you all right? That could have been a terrible fall. Luca rushed over, his face a mask of exaggerated worry that didn't fool me. Mama, this is what we've been saying. This big house, all these things to trip over, it's not safe for you anymore. Safe? I snapped, my patience fraying. I just stumbled, Luca. I'm fine. But Claudia's hand was on my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. No, you need to rest somewhere quiet, away from all this chaos. You could hurt yourself again. Her eyes met Luca's, a fleeting, conspiratorial glance. The cellar, maybe? It's out of the way. You can relax there. We'll bring you some tea. The cellar? My blood ran cold. That damp, shadowy space filled with Marco's old tools and crates of memories was no place for rest. The cellar? I said, incredulous. Don't be absurd. I'm not going down there. But Luca's tone turned patronizing, the one he used when he thought I was being childish. Mama, it's for your own good. We can't have you tripping with all these important people here. We'd never forgive ourselves. Sofia appeared then, her face pale, her eyes wide with something like fear. Luca, Claudia, maybe this isn't right, she started, her voice barely audible. Sofia, don't start, Claudia snapped, not even glancing at her. We know what's best for your mother. She needs peace so she doesn't get agitated and fall again. My protests, my rising panic were ignored. Before I knew it, they were steering me toward the cellar stairs, their hands firm, unyielding. The air grew colder, mustier as we descended. Luca opened the heavy cellar door, revealing a dim, cluttered space. There you go, Mama, he said, almost cheerful. Nice and quiet. We'll check on you soon. I tried to argue, to scream, but they stepped back and I heard the click. Not just the door's latch, but the unmistakable turn of a lock they must have installed for this purpose. Panic clawed at my throat. Luca, wait. Let me out. I shouted, rattling the doorknob, pounding on the solid wood. What are you doing? No answer. Just the faint sound of their voices upstairs, then the hum of music starting. For 2 terrifying days and nights, that cellar was my prison. I screamed until my voice broke, pounded until my hands ached. But the door held firm, my jailers deaf to my pleas. They'd left a single bottle of water and a stale packet of biscotti on a crate, a cruel afterthought. The small, grimy window let in slivers of light, showing only the cliffside beyond. The nights were worse, the cold seeping into my bones from the stone floor, shadows twisting in the faint moonlight. Every creak of the house felt like a threat. Humiliation burned hotter than my anger. My own children, Luca, Sofia, and that viper Claudia, had done this. Me, Elena, who gave them everything, locked away like refuse, so they could parade in my home. On Saturday evening, the sounds of their party drifted down. Laughter, clinking glasses, music I didn't know. Each burst of merriment was a fresh wound. I was down here, cold and terrified, while they celebrated above, using my life as their backdrop. Their betrayal settled over me like the cellar's dust, heavy and suffocating. They didn't just want me out of the way for a weekend. They wanted me gone, erased, a problem solved. And in the darkness, a chilling thought took root. What if they never let me out? Below is the rewritten version of the 3rd chapter, approximately 4,000 characters of the provided text, adapted with the new names, the coastal town of San Vero, Italy as the setting, and written from the first-person perspective of Elena. The narrative maintains the emotional weight and structure of the original while aligning with your specifications. I'll continue delivering each chapter in subsequent responses, 1 per request, as outlined. The dawn of the 3rd day in that wretched cellar brought a stark clarity. The distant clatter of dishes and the murmur of Luca, Claudia, and Sofia cleaning up after their vile party filtered down, stripped of the false cheer they'd worn like masks. I was still locked in, shivering, my stomach hollow from hunger, the single bottle of water long gone, the biscotti reduced to crumbs. The raw panic and terror of those first hours had begun to ebb, replaced by a cold, burning rage and a fierce will to survive. Not just my body, but my spirit. They thought they could break me, erase me from their lives. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Huddled on an old wooden chair Marco had stored down here, I felt a spark of memory pierce the fog of despair. Marco's old emergency phone, a bulky, ancient device he'd kept from his days as a volunteer Coast Guard, tucked away in a metal box with his medals and letters. He'd always insisted it was more reliable than modern gadgets, charging it now and then just in case. After his death, I'd packed it away in this cellar, unable to let go of those pieces of him. Hope, fragile but fierce, flickered in my chest. In the dim light filtering through the grimy window, I fumbled through dusty crates, my stiff fingers trembling with urgency, whispering a prayer. Then I found it, the metal box, heavy with memory. My heart leapt as I opened it, revealing the phone nestled among faded letters and a tarnished metal. I pressed the power button, holding my breath. The screen flickered, then lit up, showing a sliver of battery life. Enough. It had to be enough. My fingers, clumsy from cold and desperation, dialed Signora Rossi's number. She lived down the winding cliff path, a kind, no-nonsense widow who'd been my friend since Luca and Sofia were children. She answered on the second ring, her voice warm but curious. "Carla, is that you, dear?" she asked, likely puzzled by the unfamiliar number. We'd used first-name codes for years, a private signal for discreet help. "Yes, Maria," I whispered, my voice hoarse, using her code name for me. "It's Elena. I think there's a problem here. Maybe a gas smell? I'm a bit confused, and I can't seem to get Luca or the others' attention. Could you pop by and check if everything's all right outside?" I kept my tone frail, quivering, playing the part of a confused old woman. A gas leak was a threat no one could ignore. A pause. Then Signora Rossi's voice sharpened with concern. "A gas smell, Elena? Stay where you are. Don't touch anything. I'm calling the gas company and coming right over." Relief flooded me, so strong my knees nearly buckled. She'd understood, no questions asked. Now I just had to wait and steel myself. It felt like forever, but likely only 20 minutes passed before I heard commotion upstairs, Signora Rossi's firm voice, the deeper tones of what sounded like emergency responders, and Luca's flustered words, dripping with false worry that made my stomach churn. "Mama, Mama, are you down there?" he called, his voice a mockery of concern. We were so worried. The lock clicked, the sound of both my captivity and my freedom. The cellar door creaked open, and there stood Luca, Claudia hovering behind him, their faces a carefully crafted mask of shock and relief. Sofia, pale and wide-eyed, peered around them. "Mama, thank heavens!" Luca exclaimed, rushing toward me with arms I had no intention of embracing. "Signora Rossi said you smelled gas. We were cleaning up after the reception and thought you were resting in your room. You must have wandered down here and the door latched. We've been frantic." Claudia chimed in, her voice syrupy. "Elena, darling, you scared us, locking yourself in the cellar. Are you all right? You look so frail." I let myself sway, leaning against a crate, my hand fluttering to my temple. "Oh, Luca, Claudia, what happened?" I murmured, feigning bewilderment. "I felt dizzy yesterday after that little stumble. You said I should rest down here, didn't you? Where it's quiet. Did I fall asleep for long?" Their eyes met, a quick, shared glance of relief, maybe even triumph. They thought I was too muddled to remember, too broken to challenge their lies. Sofia rushed forward, her face a tangle of emotions. "Oh, Mama, I was so worried," she cried, helping me up, her hands trembling. Was it guilt or fear of exposure? The responders, after a quick check, declared no gas leak, a fiction I'd crafted, my first act of defiance. Signora Rossi's sharp eyes met mine over Luca and Claudia's fussing, but she played along, expressing relief that I was safe, if confused. My children, my jailers, became my solicitous caretakers, apologizing for the misunderstanding, claiming they hadn't checked on me because I was resting so soundly. They cooed and fussed, their insincerity suffocating. I played my part perfectly, weak, disoriented, my memory of the weekend conveniently vague. They settled me back in my bedroom, which felt less like mine than ever. That night, after they left with promises to take better care of me, the real Elena emerged from the frail shell I'd pretended to be. The rage still burned, a cold knot in my gut, but it was now paired with a steely resolve. They'd underestimated me, mistaken my love for weakness, my trust for foolishness. They'd locked me away like an animal, and they would pay. My mind, far from foggy, was razor sharp. I needed more than my word against theirs. I needed their words, their voices, to condemn them. A plan, bold and risky, took root. I needed to record them. Below is the rewritten version of the fourth chapter, approximately 4,000 characters of the provided text, adapted with the new names, the coastal town of San Vero, Italy as the setting, and written from the first-person perspective of Elena. The narrative continues to reflect the emotional intensity and structure of the original while adhering to your specifications. I'll deliver the remaining chapters in subsequent responses, one per request, as outlined. The days after my cellar ordeal in San Vero were a masterclass in deception, my deception. I became a shadow of myself, a fragile echo of the vibrant woman who once ran a school and raised two children alone. My steps were slower, my voice softer, my gaze often distant, as if struggling to hold onto the present. I'd forget names, misplace my glasses, often right on my head, to their eye-rolling amusement, and drift off during Luca's self-important rants or Claudia's cutting remarks. It was humiliating, swallowing my pride to play this role, but every condescending pat on my hand, every smug smile they exchanged over my confused head, fueled the icy resolve in my heart. I needed evidence, something undeniable to expose their betrayal. The seed of a plan had sprouted in the cellar's darkness. I'd record them, capture their own words to damn them. Feigning an interest in keeping my mind sharp, as Claudia had once mockingly suggested, I asked Sofia to help me order a few things online. Simple items, dear, I said with a wavering smile, for my doctor's appointments, so I don't forget his advice. Among the innocuous purchases, a new tea kettle, a knitting pattern book, I slipped in a small, voice-activated digital recorder. Sofia, eager to ease her guilty conscience, agreed without question. When the recorder arrived, I spent hours in my bedroom, door closed, learning its quirks, its range, its sensitivity, practicing in whispers so no one would suspect. Luca, Claudia, and Sofia thought they had a broken, manageable mother on their hands. They had no idea I was preparing for war, and they were about to hand me the ammunition I needed. I targeted Luca first, my son, once the light of my life, now a man whose arrogance defined him. I waited for an afternoon when Claudia was out at one of her essential social events in Naples. I found him in Marco's old study, measuring the walls with a predatory glint, already envisioning his takeover. Luca, dear, I began, my voice deliberately shaky as I leaned against the doorframe, the recorder hidden in my apron pocket. My mind still so muddled from that cellar weekend. You were trying to protect me, weren't you? After my little stumble. He puffed up, just as I predicted. Exactly, Mama, he said, his tone smug. Someone had to take charge. You weren't yourself, becoming a liability, especially with those important clients Claudia and I were hosting. We couldn't risk you making a scene. He lowered his voice, conspiratorial. The cellar was just a temporary fix, out of sight, out of mind, so you could rest and we could handle things. It was for the best, you see that now, don't you? The recorder captured every word, his smug justification, his chilling out of sight, out of mind, his claim that the best was for him and Claudia. My heart ached, but my resolve hardened. Claudia was next, trickier with her sharp eyes and suspicious nature. I approached her under the guise of needing her modern expertise. She was in my living room, scrolling through design websites, her lip curling at Marco's old leather armchair. Claudia, dear, I said, my voice frail, since that episode, I've been thinking this house might be too much for me. You have such fine taste. If Luca took over more formally, what would you do with it? Her eyes lit up, a greedy spark I knew too well. Oh, Elena, she purred, launching into a monologue. This place has potential, buried under all this clutter. She waved at my cherished photos and Marco's fishing trophies. We gut this area, open it up, clean, modern lines, perfect for the entertaining Luca needs. That weekend with those clients was a trial run, really, to see how the space could work once we have more control. It's about moving forward, Elena, upgrading. Her dismissal of my life's treasures, her admission that the party was a test for their takeover, was all safely recorded, her words dripping with ambition. Sofia was both the easiest and the hardest. Her guilt was raw, a wound I could press gently, but it hurt because I still saw the little girl I'd rocked to sleep. One afternoon, I found her staring out the kitchen window, her face heavy with sorrow. Sofia, honey, I said, my hand trembling on her arm, not entirely fake this time. That cellar weekend, I try to piece it together, but it's like a nightmare. Was I really such trouble for you all? Tears welled in her eyes. Oh, Mama, she choked, turning to hug me, a gesture I endured with a frozen heart. It wasn't like that. Luca and Claudia were so insistent, saying it was for your own good, that you were agitated after your fall. I told them it felt wrong, I did, but they steamrolled me. I felt awful leaving you down there. I heard you calling, Mama. But Luca said not to go down, that it'd make you worse. I'm so sorry. Her tearful confession, her admission of hearing my cries, her weakness under Luca and Claudia's pressure. It was all there, heartbreaking but damning, laced with a remorse that felt real, but too late. Night after night, I transferred the audio files to a secure folder on Marco's old laptop, listening with a mix of grim satisfaction and fresh pain. Their voices, Luca's arrogance, Claudia's cold calculations, Sofia's weak apologies, formed a sickening chorus of betrayal. Keeping up the facade of a frail, forgetful woman was exhausting. Some days, I wanted to scream at their patronizing remarks, to fling their false concern back in their faces. But the thought of the upcoming family reunion, the vision of their shocked faces as their own words condemned them, kept me going. I'd even suggested, with feigned enthusiasm, one last big gathering in my garden, a tradition Marco and I had started. They agreed, no doubt seeing it as proof of my compliance. They thought they were managing me. They had no idea I was weaving a net to trap them all. The day of our annual family reunion dawned bright and warm, the Mediterranean sun casting a golden glow over San Vero, a stark contrast to the cold resolve that had settled in my heart. For weeks, I'd moved through my days like a ghost, my outward frailty a mask hiding meticulous preparations for this moment. Marco's old laptop held the damning recordings of my children's betrayal, each audio file a nail in their coffin. A small Bluetooth speaker bought for my garden music, I told them with a weak smile, was charged and ready, tucked discreetly among the lavender pots. My garden, usually alive with the scent of lemon trees and the hum of bees, was filling with the lively chatter of the Varelli family. Aunts, uncles, cousins, and their children arrived with platters of homemade pasta, folding chairs, and the warm laughter of a day meant for connection. This reunion, a tradition Marco and I had started to strengthen family bonds, would serve a different purpose today. Luca, Claudia, and Sofia arrived together, a united front of false concern. Luca carried an extravagant basket of figs and cheeses, proclaiming loudly, "To keep your strength up, Mama," ensuring nearby relatives heard his devotion. Claudia, in a pristine silk dress that screamed Naples high society, air-kissed me, her eyes scanning the garden with a critical glint, likely plotting its modernization. Sofia offered a hesitant hug, her gaze heavy with anxious guilt she quickly hid behind a strained smile. They fussed over my chair, insisted on fetching me plates of food I didn't want, their every gesture a patronizing reminder of the role they cast me in, the doddering old mother, easily managed, soon to be forgotten. I played along, my heart a steady drumbeat of anticipation. As the afternoon unfolded, with plates piled high and children chasing each other through the garden, I watched them. Luca held court with his uncles, boasting about a new hotel deal, all confident swagger. Claudia charmed my nieces with tales of her latest charity gala, her voice polished and precise. Sofia sat quietly on the edge of a conversation, picking at her food, her eyes darting nervously to me. They were so secure in their deceit, so certain their cellar secret was safe, that I was a broken shell. As the sun began to dip, casting long shadows across the garden, I knew it was time. I asked my nephew Matteo, a warm-hearted young man with a contagious laugh, to get everyone's attention. "Quiet, everyone quiet," he called. "Zia Elena has something to say." A hush fell over the 30-odd family members, their eyes turning to me. I rose slowly, leaning a bit more on my cane than needed, the digital recorder clutched in one hand, the speaker ready on the table beside me. Luca, Claudia, and Sofia exchanged uneasy glances. What was the old woman up to? "Thank you all for coming," I began, my voice soft but clear, carrying across the silent garden. "It warms my heart to see our family gathered here in the home Marco and I built with love." I paused, my gaze sweeping over them, lingering on my children. This year, I want to do something special, a tribute to my loving children, Luca, Sofia, and my dear daughter-in-law, Claudia, and their unique devotion to family. A flicker of alarm crossed Luca's face. Claudia's smile tightened. Sofia looked like she wanted to vanish. With a steady hand, I pressed play. Luca's smug voice filled the air first. Someone had to take charge, Mama. You weren't yourself, a liability with those important clients we were hosting. The cellar was just a temporary fix, out of sight, out of mind, so you could rest and we could handle things. It was for the best. A collective gasp rippled through the family. My sister Teresa stared at Luca, her mouth open in shock. Luca froze, his face paling. Then Claudia's cool, disdainful tone. This place has potential, Elena, buried under all this clutter. That weekend with those clients was a trial run to see how the space could work once we have more control. It's about upgrading, moving forward when Luca's fully in charge. Claudia shot to her feet, her face twisted with fury. What is this? Turn it off, Elena. You're twisting things. But her protests were drowned by murmurs of disbelief from our relatives. Sofia's tearful voice came next. Oh, Mama, it wasn't like that. Luca and Claudia were so insistent, saying it was for your own good. I told them it felt wrong, but they steamrolled me. I heard you calling, Mama, but Luca said not to go down. I'm so sorry. The recordings continued, Luca callously valuing the house as if I were gone, Claudia mocking my outdated ways, Sofia admitting they'd locked the cellar door. Each word laid bare their cruelty. When the final recording faded, a chilling silence blanketed the garden. No one moved. Then my brother-in-law, Zio Giovanni, rose, his face thunderous. Luca, he said, his voice low and dangerous, you locked your own mother in a cellar. Luca stammered, his face flushed. It was a misunderstanding. She wasn't well. But Teresa's voice cut through. That's not concern I heard, Luca. That's greed and contempt. How could you? The family's outrage erupted. Accusations flew. Voices rose. Claudia's denials fell flat, her composure cracking. Sofia sobbed, a broken figure. They stood surrounded not by family, but by a jury of their peers, their faces etched with disgust. I watched their lies crumble, a bitter sorrow mixing with the taste of justice. My performance was over. Theirs, under truth's harsh spotlight, was just beginning. The silence that followed the final damning word from my recorder hung heavy over the garden in San Vero, broken only by Sofia's ragged sobs. Luca stood frozen, his face a splotchy mix of red and white, his usual bravado shattered. Claudia, for once speechless, glared at me, then at the shocked faces around her, her perfectly made-up features twisting into a mask of fury and disbelief. The festive warmth of our family reunion had vanished, replaced by a courtroom's chill. My relatives, who moments ago had been laughing and sharing stories, now looked at my children with eyes full of betrayal. Zio Giovanni, his voice carrying the quiet authority he'd earned as the family patriarch since Marco's passing, broke the spell. Luca, Claudia, Sofia, he said, his gaze unwavering, you owe your mother and every one of us an explanation. Though after what we just heard, I doubt any excuse could justify such heartless cruelty. His words unleashed a flood of outrage. My sister Teresa, usually so calm, rounded on Claudia. You scheming, cold woman, treating Elena like that in her own home. My nieces and nephews, who'd grown up cherishing me, stared at Luca and Sofia with raw disgust. Luca tried to bluster, his voice shaky. It was a misunderstanding. Mama wasn't well, we were worried. But his words were swallowed by a chorus of disbelief. Claudia, ever defiant, spat at me. You manipulative old hag, you set us up? Even Luca flinched at her venom, their toxic alliance cracking under the weight of public exposure. Sofia crumpled further into her chair, sobbing uncontrollably, a pitiable figure but no less culpable. It was a messy, ugly scene, the unraveling of a family's carefully built facade. Yet amidst the chaos, something beautiful emerged. One by one, my relatives came to me. My cousin Rosa, her eyes blazing, took my hand. Elena, you're staying with me tonight. You shouldn't be alone after this. Matteo, my nephew who'd helped with the speaker, wrapped a protective arm around me. We've got you, Zia Elena. Always. Their offers of support, their outrage on my behalf, their genuine love enveloped me like a warm blanket. They saw the truth. They understood. And they stood with me. In that moment, I knew I wasn't the lonely old woman Luca had dismissed, nor the burden Claudia had tried to make me. I was Elena, matriarch of a flawed but fiercely loyal family. I wasn't alone. The days and weeks that followed were a whirlwind of purposeful action. The story of Luca, Claudia, and Sofia's actions, especially the Cellar imprisonment, spread like wildfire through our extended family and the tight-knit San Vero community. Luca's hotel clients, some of whom had attended that wretched party, suddenly found him less charming. Claudia's social circles in Naples quietly distanced themselves, her charity events no longer graced by her presence. The shame clung to them, isolating them far more effectively than any locked cellar door. For me, there was a deep sense of vindication, but it was a heavy, bittersweet victory. These were my children, the babies I'd sung to sleep, the teenagers whose dreams I'd nurtured. Seeing them disgraced, broken by their own actions, brought an ache to my heart, even as the survivor in me recognized the justice of it. The weight of their betrayal, the years of feeling diminished, began to lift. I could breathe again, the air of my home no longer thick with their contempt. With Zio Giovanni and Teresa by my side, I consulted a lawyer. We discussed the unlawful confinement, the emotional toll. I had no desire for a long, ugly court battle that would drag out the pain, but documenting their actions and securing my assets was essential. My will was rewritten, power of attorney updated. Luca and Claudia were cut from my life and legacy as cleanly as a fisherman guts a catch. They'd inherit nothing but the consequences of their greed. Sofia was a different matter. A week after the reunion, she came to me alone, her face pale, eyes red from crying, stripped of all pretense. She sat at my kitchen table, where she'd eaten countless meals as a child, and spoke without excuses. "I know sorry isn't enough, Mama," she whispered, her voice raw. "I don't expect forgiveness, but I need you to know I'll carry the shame of what I did, what I let happen, forever." Her pain seemed real, her regret deep. But trust, once shattered, doesn't mend easily. "Sophia," I said, my voice gentle but firm, "what you all did cut me to my core. Forgiveness is a long road, and I don't know where it leads. Maybe one day, if your actions prove real change, we'll find a path. But for now, I need to heal, and you need to find who you are without Luca and Claudia steering you." I left the door slightly ajar for her, a sliver of hope, but made it clear the journey back would be hers, long and hard. My home began to feel like mine again. I reclaimed it room by room, filling it with lavender, Marco's favorite music, and the laughter of family and friends who visited more often than ever. Their respect for me, renewed and deepened, warmed my soul. The cellar door stayed unlocked, a silent reminder of a nightmare I'd survived. I wasn't the troublesome old woman they'd tried to make me. I was Elena, stronger than ever, my spirit unbroken.